Defense made a motion for a mistrial. Prosecutor was up to some fuckery. Potentially damaging evidence, no basis for it. The judge specifically said, do not ask that question. Do not use that as evidence. She walked right down the path and asked the question. It may be over on Tuesday morning. Batman Bruce Wayne bitch snitch. Gerald Brooks, your constitution does not apply to me because I'm a sovereign citizen, a traveler on the land, I'm the Moorish Empire or whatever, bitch snitch. Because they're so fucking absurd. If you want to be a sovereign citizen, just do yourself a favor first. Go to YouTube here and just get every sovereign citizen that's ever been recorded. Find me one that won. God dang, you're right. Don't go down this. It's not the path. Don't have time for stupidity. Some clever dick on the internet didn't find the great loophole in all of the world's law. Bitch snitch. God dang, you're right. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. God dang, you're right. Moorish Empire. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. Moorish Empire. God dang, you're right. Traveler on the land. Bitch snitch. The late evening U.S. people. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're doing it with, I'm just darn glad you're doing it here with me because it's that time. It's Thursday, but it's Wednesday. What I mean by that is normally we do the retro trial on Thursday, but we're doing it on Wednesday this week because tomorrow Megan Fox and I will resume our Neighbor Wars series. If you're watching this at some distant point in the future, go look for the Neighbor Wars playlist. You won't regret it. So Megan Fox and I will pick that up tomorrow. So we decided to move because she couldn't do today, which is Wednesday. We decided to move Thursday to Wednesday, and that's why we're here doing the retro trial today. So this is part 13 of the trial. Again, if you haven't seen the first 12 parts, it doesn't really matter because it's an interesting tale, but there hasn't been much substance to it. He's just alleged to have killed his two half brothers and his mother. The prosecution alleges that he killed his mother because he was written out of the will, and alleged that he killed one of his brothers because his brother apparently allegedly did some inappropriate thing. His half brother did some inappropriate things with his child, and the other brother was allegedly murdered because he couldn't leave a witness. And meanwhile, there has been suggestions and hints from the prosecution that he may be a witch, a Wiccan witch, and may have killed him in a ritualistic manner under a blue moon on in the end of July on 2015. Pretty much the only thing that's been proven, the only direct, it's not even direct evidence, the only real evidence they've had against him is the prison snitch, who was really, really bad and really, really dumb. So that's really all they got. And it was bad witness. But we'll talk a little bit more about that on the other side of the intermission before we get into the actual bit of the trial. So we've got a little bit of housekeeping to take care of today. Not much, because I want to get through as much of this trial as possible. I think we might be able to wrap it up, like I said, in the next couple of weeks. We're right there at the end. And all right, Chad, how are we?
How are we? The only real back of house stuff, the only real housekeeping duties we have today is to remind you, as always, current live viewers and those of you viewing on the replay crew, to hit the like and subscribe button. Is it me or my lights really bright? Oh, fudge-matic. Just lost some of my pipe tobacco. My lights seem really, really bright today. I don't know why. Let me adjust them. Why are my lights so bright today? Maybe no, they're just the same as they always are. Just right. Hang on, we got to go into dark mode here for a minute. Ooh, well, no, we're going to go into extra bright mode. For some reason, my lights were behaving badly. Go off, come back on. Ooh, spooky. And then go to there we go. That's better. That's where they normally are. Still looking a bit orange. This is actually kind of a reddish orange here at the show. Anyway, doesn't matter. let's just go with it, shall we? Because we are here and we are ready to go. Take the like and subscribe poll. For those of you that are just watching live, you got to take the like and subscribe poll. If you're watching on replay crew, it's not really there, but you can send your answers telepathically. How's that sound? Our like and subscribe poll is just simply here to remind you to hit like and subscribe. We are well on our way to 81,000 subscribers. I don't want to be on my way to 31,000 subscribers. We are on our way to 81,000 subscribers. We're at 80,347, I think, just before the show started. So hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and take our like and subscribe poll. We got to currently have 112 people here, 62 likes, 71 votes. Cheaters. Make sure y'all get down there and vote. Here's our question for the day. And again, it doesn't matter if you've watched this trial from the beginning or not. Take the poll anyway, just for giggles. Donald Hartung is a guilty witch. Burn him. A not guilty witch. He's not a witch, but he's guilty. And not a witch and not guilty. Those are your choices for today. So choose one of those and we'll see what you think in about an hour. And then we'll see what you think at the end of the show. All right. Well, that's really all I've got. We've talked about what's coming up this week. We've talked a little bit about this. We've fellowship and philosophized with you. So what do you say? Let's get on with the trial. Again, if super chats come in, they will be read as they come in. We have the emotional support potato pig dog cam locked and loaded and ready to be unleashed. We are on a 7-day streak here. Are we going to keep the streak alive? It's an 8-day streak today, or do we reboot to 0 days? Let's see how this comes. Let's see how this turns out. But we are on a 7-day doggo cam streak. Can we keep it up? Let's find out. All right, it is intermission time. So grab your popcorn and let's get ready to rumble, shall we? Oh, I think we should do it. Are we ready? Ready for the intermission?
This is a brief intermission.
You're very much appreciated for saying that I'm appreciated. I appreciate that.
This is a brief intermission.
Thank you very, very much. I'm going to have a search and or seizure. More likely the seizure. I appreciate you.
This is a brief intermission.
I appreciate you. All right, we are here for part 13 of the Donald Hartung Witchcraft Ritual Murder Trial. The trial's from 2020. The murder happened in 2015. Will he be found guilty? We're a couple of weeks from finding out. And before we jump into this, just got a couple of quick things. One to do is Adara the Wholesome kicking us off, starting us off with the super chats. Awesome sauce. I can testify as an expert if they need a better one. I'm a level 15 wizard in my field and would definitely be more interesting than that high priest. Yeah, they kept telling us he was going to be a high priest, but he just turned out he was just your garden variety Wiccan, I guess. So kind of let down by that. All right, if you watched this last week, you saw we were in the middle of an immensely boring forensic examiner guy that had been hired for the defense. Was it the Casey Anthony case that I think we decided he worked on? He's a very, very knowledgeable guy. He's incredibly qualified as an expert, but good Lord, his testimony was boring. We were like bleeding from our ears, trying to gouge our eyes out just to get through last Thursday. It was rough. And we got through the direct examination, and we all decided that it would just be best to skip the cross-examination. But as a good host, I kind of breezed through it, skipped a few parts just to kind of get the gist of what he was saying. And the big gist of this guy for talking for damn near 2.5, 3 hours on the stand, all told, comes down to he does not think, okay, for those of you that don't know, they were allegedly killed on Tuesday night when the defendant came over to make them dinner, as he did on every Tuesday night. And they were discovered rapidly decomposing in a sealed Florida house at the end of July without the air conditioning on, covered with blankets and pillows. So this expert testified that in his opinion, the science does not support a finding that they died on Tuesday, but he can't rule it out. So that's kind of the gist of this guy's 3-hour-long testimony. We decided to skip him. So we're gonna pick up at the end of that guy's testimony, because we didn't want to watch him for another hour. We all decided that would just be cruel and unusual punishment, and none of us had done anything to deserve that guy's testimony for another hour. Janet Burris is going, arg. Jeff, a high priest, is just the co-leader of a coven, essentially a minister. Okay, so in your expert opinion, Janet, would he be considered a high priest as he was being touted in the press, or would he just be one of the guys? What would your expert opinion be on him? Are we okay to continue calling him a Wiccan high priest, or must we just resort to his description of himself? You're the boss that will guide us and steer us through that part of the testimony. But I actually am waiting for your answer. By the way, all right. Well, I'll keep my eye out for your answer. But in the meantime, let's start, shall we? Oh yes, he is a high priest. So we have the reliable word of an actual expert who I think should have been on the stand. Probably would have done an immeasurably better job. But anywho, thank you very much, Janet. Got it. Oops, I have just clicked the wrong button, because that's what I do. All right, here we go. Let's bring it on up. Again, I like to be the center of attention, so I shall embiggen myself. And we'll get here with Judge Teller ready to start us on our day.
Where we're at, Judge,
No! We no. Oh. All right. We may finish this sooner than we thought. That was part 21, I believe. No, it was part 22. Where we need to
where we're at, Judge.
There we go.
The defense provided an Excel sheet.
So they want to call this Candy Zuliger as an expert. She's a forensic DNA analyst. The defense wants to call her. So I guess they're going to do some voir dire outside the presence of the jurors.
This morning before lunch, and a PowerPoint. I've reviewed the PowerPoint, and I don't have any objections except for the last page, where it talks about one of Ms. Zuliger's lab validations. It was an experiment they did, and it's not peer reviewed. It's not done under any kind of proficiency test. It's not published.
All right, I demand the gremlin that stole my Cthulhu Zippo to return it to its proper place.
It's not done according to Dalbert Fry, I would imagine. I believe it was kept out in Santa Rosa in a case over there. Either way, Ms. Zuliger did indicate that she has some peer-reviewed material that she can testify to make the same point.
Zuliger? I thought it was Zuliger.
We have that same objection for those items, but we would like that portion out of the PowerPoint.
You are correct. It is pronounced voir dire, but I was just pandering to the masses who mispronounce it as voir dire.
It has to do with transfer DNA, Judge, and I'm just reading from the PowerPoint. During one of our lab's validations, we investigated transferred DNA and found that if my computer, mouse, or phone were used by another biologist, keeping up, then that person touched a sterilized door handle, then my profile would show up as a minor donor every time the handle was swapped.
Okay.
Yes.
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, we've already talked about transfer DNA. She's just going to give an anecdotal account of it having happened under one situation.
Right, well, the details of it.
Or wait, is he a rebuttal witness? Are they trying to? Did the defense rest? No. Wait, what did the defense rest at the end of the last one? We didn't. And because I skipped it, we didn't know. Let's find out. But he just looks like a doofus, doesn't he? I am sorry to comment on looks, but he just looks like prosecutor doofus.
She's having somebody grab the mouse or the door handle for 30 seconds, which is, obviously different than what normal use would be.
Nope. Sounds like
Instead of twisting and rubbing.
ooh, twisting and rubbing. Can we get Coxwell or Infinger to do the twisting and rubbing?
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give the true self you got?
I do.
State your full name for the court and call your last name for the court reporter, please.
Candy Zulu.
Okay, nope.
ZU.
Oh, this dude has deteriorated rapidly over the course of this trial. Dude here in the center back, he's just gone downhill rapidly since this trial began. He is in complete like Chum Lee from Pawn Stars no longer gives any F's. He's just out. But Beats by Dre guy is still going solid here, so we're good. But yeah, this guy in the middle, he's just given up. He ain't even wearing his glasses anymore.
Leger.
Ooh, Nurse Ratchet with the pearl necklace.
Did you do I guess experiments might not be the right word, but did you do an experiment to make a determination about transfer DNA?
Okay, so this is still the defense's case. He's giving her the voir dire to make sure she's qualified as an expert to testify about transfer DNA.
Yes, part of the validation before you go online with a certain DNA testing kit or a new instrument, you have to see how all the testing performs in your hands. So one of the testings that we did was a secondary transfer, just to find out how frequently this occurs, how realistic this is.
Not frequently enough.
So we're able to talk about it from experience versus just looking at the literature. The literature already suggested that secondary transfer occurs very frequently, and that's basically what our conclusions were also.
And can you tell the court how you went about doing that?
Specifically, my mouse and my phone in separate instances were handled by another person. That person
throw the phone around the room?
Sterilized doorknob, and that doorknob was then swabbed for DNA, and that DNA was checked. And what it was is the DNA was detected every time. Now, my profile was not a major donor, it was a minor donor, but it was detected every time.
Don't let minors give donations.
Was this done for an article or for any type of peer review, or was it done in-house?
I don't think it needs to be a peer review, just an example.
That's our position, Judge.
I mean, I don't see just kind of common sense. I mean, if someone used the same glass for a long time, like you use a mouse for a long time, a mouse is going to be covered with your DNA. Therefore, if someone touches it, that must.
Hey, how do you know my mouse is all covered with
from
DNA?
A personal item like that versus something someone doesn't touch.
Judge,
off.
are you telling us something?
Probably has DNA all over it. It'd be easier to transfer that.
Obviously, everybody's mouse just is covered with DNA.
That's just kind of common sense, I guess. I
We
don't think
must-
it's more of a
we
study,
must
it's just
do
kind of an
things
example
differently,
of
Judge.
how DNA gets transferred. I mean, but go ahead, Mr. Myers, do you have anything?
Is that on there? Oh,
Does it give any percentages or likelihoods?
This is actually interesting. He's saying we don't
Because
really
that
need her to
would depend
testify
on
because what she's going to
the
testify to
thousands
is
of
pretty
variables.
common sense.
Go ahead.
You hold on to a door handle long
It does
enough, you're
depend
going to
on
get a lot of DNA
variables,
out.
but in our testing, on all the samples, the person who never touched the item, actually, their DNA was detected. My DNA was every time
Well, that's interesting.
from those high DNA items.
Yeah, for a high DNA item.
Correct.
You're basically dipping your hand in DNA almost.
Hey, Corn Pope, what's up?
Well, it's just kind of demonstrative of how transfer DNA works, but
Well, if it's stated or phrased in a way that this is an absolute, I mean, and that obviously expert's opinion that needs to be based on a peer review science. I mean, it has to be validated.
If I
There
was
has
him,
to be
I would dye my
procedures,
eyebrows
protocols
just so
put
they
in
were
place to
visible.
make sure it's validated. She hasn't even testified as to how many times it was done.
well, I understand, but your witness already testified you had transferred DNA. And each time it's touched, the chances of showing up greatly reduce, which makes sense.
Right.
If I'm painting the wall, I get some paint on my hand, I can put it on.
We've all
something
painted
white
the
because
wall
someone
once
else
or
coming
twice,
and
Judge.
Transferring that paint to somewhere else is greatly reduced. But if the wall's all a bunch of wet paint, there's a good chance I'm gonna pick some up and transfer it by leaning against it.
Why is that point not permitted through peer-reviewed examples? That's where I'm hung up at. It's something that's been studied and peer-reviewed by experts in this field, and she can make the same point, the same argument, through something that's
Okay, well, while Skeletor watches on from the background, it's like this is like Geddy Lee if he lost like 40 pounds back here. Anyway, Adar the Wholesome with another $2 super chat. Can he even cast prestidigitation? Didn't think so. I cast magic missile. Boot to the head. All right, we are now 93 away from emotional support potato pig dog cam.
been validated and peer-reviewed, not something. she
Yes,
did
that
at
is
home
Sarah Palin.
Or in her office.
I mean, frankly, the example that she gives is
And that's Tiller.
pretty unique. A personal mouse compared to, but I just see that the experts all through the trial have given anecdotal examples of how something works. Let's say, semen is covered with whatever.
It actually is interesting that she was saying that in her testing that her DNA was showing up on items she never touched. So in other words, the suspect's DNA could be found on let's say a bloody hammer that he never touched. This is actually a very, very interesting. I want to hear more about this, just from a curiosity standpoint. I hope he accepts her as an expert.
Temperature change.
And the difference is, this is not anecdotal. This is something specific that she did. This is a test that she did, a test that should have been validated and done with peer review.
Well, she's not.
If she said generally, if when you touch something, you can leave DNA, transfer DNA. We've already heard that. We know that's anecdotal. If I'm touching this podium, if I'm touching this desk, and then somebody comes behind, anecdotal, not a specific test that she's run.
Awkward pause.
Is she given an opinion?
He's like,
or
"Ha,
just an
talk
example
some
of
more,
how
bitch."
DNA is transferred?
Example of how DNA is transferred. And that in her laboratory.
Sheriff guy's just waiting for one of them to
because
take a
she read the
swing.
literature about it, they did an experiment where
We just ran the test.
they ran a test to see
He's got a rash.
that what they did in their laboratory supported the literature.
Correct.
I mean, I'm sure it depends on how moist your hand was. If it had been a brand new mouse and somebody touched it once, the
His
odds of
hand
transferring
is
probably much less.
moist.
Exactly.
I don't see it as a study. It's just
It's a study of
example,
moist
like
hands.
the experts give pretty much all the time to try to crystallize it to a jury so they understand how their science speech translates to plain English.
Right, but we wouldn't be able to put an expert on to give an unvalidated experiment or an unvalidated test that was not from an accreditation.
Hey, what's Keemstar
was
doing
not
in the
from a
background
peer
here?
review standpoint,
Listen, get a
was not,
Keemstar sighting back there.
in some way valid under the scientific methods of that industry, for lack of a better term, or field.
Come on, JB's big boy. You got to put up a better argument
What
than
we're
that.
allowing her to do
It's like
is
hold up a
talk
big
about
plate of
something
hamburgers and maybe
that-
people will pay attention.
and the court phrased it anecdotally. I think if
go,
that's all
Bob's
it
big
was,
boy.
she could testify.
Get after it.
But she's talking about a specific test that she ran under unsupervised or accredited standards, which would not.
I
meet the
didn't say it.
threshold of opinion
The
testimony.
judge said moist, not me.
It's not really an opinion, she's just telling you what
And
happened.
her opinion is my DNA's on there every time I run the test.
Every time they did in that circumstance.
It's
Right.
a sexy test.
That's her opinion.
Of course, we don't have any personal computer mice in this case.
Exactly.
So,
But she validated it by testing for the DNA. So it's not just her opinion that's there. They validated on those instances, it really was there. She's not saying it's my opinion it's going to be there. They validated the fact that it was there.
well, I thought that's kind of self-evident. You can't get opinions, that you gotta have some real world physical events before it gets developed into a theory. Just like a fingerprint person could say, yeah, I put my fingers on a brick and then try to get a print off and you can't get it from a brick. But I put it on a piece of glass and you could every time.
What if you throw the brick through
Just
the
as an
glass?
example of what's good surface for fingerprint capture and what isn't. But
Ooh,
anything else, as long as it's not presented to present some, 100% in that situation, there'd be no basis to apply it in a particular situation here unless the controls are the same. Would be the scientific basis to say because it happened 100% with a personal mouse that basically one person used for months, years, or
Richard
whatever,
Gere's personal mouse was
versus
covered
somebody
in
that may have
DNA,
been
right?
touched by somebody occasionally or once or whatever, as long as it's not giving an opinion that it's always done, no matter what the environmental or secondary conditions are. So, Mr. Griffith, you're not going to present it to argue it happens every time,
No, sir.
just that it can happen, and here's an example. Anything else?
No.
I'm inclined to allow it if it's just.
Hey, sweet, we get to hear from her.
Type of explanation.
Look at this bailiff. This bailiff's like, I'm getting close to retirement and I ain't F somebody up in a long time. One of you. Come on, old man.
As to
Make my
the
day.
interpretation of some of the data that Ms. Wilkerson has in her file and that was provided to Ms. Zilliger yesterday.
Miss Zoidberg.
The issue
I'm
is,
the
Judge,
DNA expert.
No.
I'm DNA expert Zoidberg.
The issue is FDLE is not accredited to report on kinship statistics. It takes a special accreditation. I believe it's AABB to be accredited. Ms. Wilkerson is not in a position to be able to testify to any statistics from the STR mix as to kinship and to, they're not accredited. She's not trained in it. She went through some training, and I think she said it was 3 slides in a 300-page book, and that's all the training she's had. She's run 600, I believe she testified 600 something STR mix samples since it first came out, and she's never had to apply STR mix in the statistical portion of that. And what it is it's looking at related individuals, and my understanding is it's for people when there are unknown siblings or unknown family members. For instance, if a defendant said, it wasn't me, it was my brother. We didn't have this brother's DNA. We didn't have his sample. They can run in, not FDLE, but that's what this portion of
Like
the-
two uh-ohs. One, I touched something, and two, Alan seems to have forgot his 27th wedding anniversary today. Oops. Well, that's bad enough. That there's might be an anniversary spanking involved. Oh, by the way, all you Scottish people in chat, remind me to talk about something at the end of the show. If I forget, I forgot to do it at the beginning, so let's remind me if I don't remind myself by the end of the show. Stop touching that.
Statistics is for. They can run that, and it's a figure that would say, hey, we don't know this other sibling's DNA, but here's the probability that this profile came from another family member or another sibling, and here's the value for it. Here's the weight to be given. That's not what we have in this case. In this case, we have known siblings and known standards for those siblings, and those were utilized, and therefore the statistics she reported are appropriate because she's saying this profile compared to this sibling is, here's the probability. This profile to the defendant, here's the probability, and so forth.
Exactly, JKD Buck. What's the probability it was a ferret?
Zuliger is not accredited either. She doesn't have a lab anymore that's active. She's never run STR mix in a lab. She went to a training last year in Tampa.
Did she study forward?
January 15th through the 18th for STR mix training. So for 3 days. She's never testified to STR mix.
Is she a diplomate?
For the kinship, statistical value. She's never run the statistics for STR mix. So she's never had to rely on this in her field. And we believe neither one of them are experts or qualified enough to testify to that. And so we would move to exclude any testimony about it.
STR mix is a testing method?
Is a software for the statistical portion.
That's what Ms. Wilkerson testified to yesterday. I don't know if you recall, Judge, but in June, she had run it on a different software program. Then I believe in August, she ran it on the STR mix program. And when I was questioning her yesterday,
who ran the STD program? That's what
all she gave were for unrelated individuals. And I asked her if they had the STR mix for related.
I was going to say STD,
which is what the Smiths and Mr. Hartung wanted. And she said, I don't have it, and that the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, I guess they accredit it or they verify the STR mix for unrelated individuals, but they haven't accredited or authorized the STR mix portion of the software program for related individuals. But in her case notes or case file, she has those statistics. But she is not, as I understand from the state, comfortable with relating what those statistics are to the jury. But they have those.
You're saying the FDLE expert is not comfortable?
That's what I understand from Mr. Myers.
I'm not talking about comfort, I'm talking about qualified. She's not accredited. She's not trained.
I thought this was not all that high-level stuff, deciding genetic comparisons between family members. But I'm not even understanding the difference between whatever conclusion y'all are getting at. Is, what's her name again? Wilkerson. Gave some odds, 8 million to 1, 1 billion to 1, whatever, of certain mixtures maybe having.
This is a judge who gives zero fucks about DNA.
Contributor versus being some random person, something like that.
and it substantially changes and lowers that value when they run it on the program of them being related. Substantially lowers.
Well, I'm gonna have to have a class on this and someone explain. I imagine it's explainable, because if it's not explainable to me, it's not gonna be explainable to the jury. Because I don't understand the concept, why it would be different, and how you would have these DNA mixtures.
Daddy milkers.
And you wouldn't be able, why this new program would make a difference in the result unless it's more sensitive. Or,
It makes a difference in the result, as I understand, just because the old program did 15 markers and the new program does.
Dude's rocking a G-Shock watch. Pretty cool. Cool, the judge.
That's why there's a difference in the results from the old program and the new program.
It may not be a G-Shock. It just may be a Casio, one of the non-G-Shock Casios.
Related component.
But it looks like a G-Shock.
Random or unrelated component. I don't know the substance of that difference. I don't even understand.
May I take some testimony?
Sure.
Ma'am, if you would state your full name for the court, spell your last name for the court report.
Candy Zuleger, Zuleger.
Zulicker.
Ms. Zuliger, what is your background?
What's up, my Zulicker?
I don't need your expertise. Just
Okay.
explain to me the bottom line on
Okay.
this concept.
If you would, did you hear what the judge just said?
I did.
Will you do that, please?
I understand what he's asking. So
Suddenly I
in
wanna
the
be
STR
sent
mix,
to the
you get
principal's
these
office, and I don't
printouts
know
of
why.
what's called the likelihood ratio. Under this likelihood ratio, there are several designations under that. It tells you what the stats are for a sibling, a parent-child, half siblings, a grandparent, grandchild, uncle, aunt, niece, nephew, first cousins, and then unified, which would be the unrelated individuals. So you have several options in which to choose to report, is what we're trying to get at.
I don't think experts should be testifying. They turn the machine on and here's what came out of it. We can't, but
Well, that's what the crux
Be
of the
seen soon.
DNA was yesterday.
Oh, the baby
DNA
G's are cute.
samples were taken, they were put in whatever machines they use, and using the software, it
Hey,
gave
they
a
still
value
are. Now they're retro
that
cool.
you would be
And the G-Shocks are always God tier.
a partial contributor, 1 out of 7 billion, 1 out of 500 million. And that was done, testified to as to unrelated individuals. Now, they also have, Ms. Morganson had in her file the results for related individuals.
what does that even mean? The results for related individuals. What do you-
Because you can run it where people are not related. You're just running it you out of everybody in the world, as opposed to you out of family members.
Well, there are no more family members.
But there were at the time, because that's where the DNA came from.
Oh, no. You didn't just go, there are no more family members left, did you? Oh, my God, Judge. Oh. Oh, I was not expecting that. But there are no family members because he killed them all. Oh, no. Wow. Aaron, what's up? Member for 12 months. Yay for the emotional support, Potato Pig Dogs. And Jeff, he's pretty cool too. Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Oh, man. Oh no! I must admit I was not expecting that. Well, there are no more family members. They're all dead.
Out of family members.
Well, there are no more family members.
But there were at the time,
But there
because that's
were.
where the DNA came from.
Well, what kind of answer or what kind of conclusion does this give you that's different?
Ms. Zilliger?
For this first example, she quoted, I believe it was 1.9 billion. But when you look at a parent-child, that number goes down to 29,000. So it's a pretty significant difference in a related versus an unrelated statistic.
Oh, please don't put us through
I
more.
would think a
related, unrelated, billion to one things, please?
A
Judge is getting a headache.
good expert could show me with some graph of the basic science and the rationale. I don't want to go back to basic genetics class and biology, but as to what the concept is here, instead of just you run this different program, you get this different number.
Well, that's what was testified to yesterday. What I'm trying to do is
Luke says, "Where's the
clarify
gym?
the
No gym
fact
today. We have a
that
Boulevardier
probabilities
cocktail.
change based
Bourbon,
upon kinship,
sweet vermouth,
and they're lowered
and
based
Campari.
upon kinship.
Why? Conceptually, why?
Can you tell the judge why?
Just that the statistics for inclusion would be lower, and in some cases, they're actually in the inconclusive zone. So some of the statistics that were given yesterday would actually be inconclusive, couldn't be reported.
If somebody was given a TED talk on this subject, they would probably have a diagram. And
Get Laura Owen. She
graph
does TED
so
Talks.
a layman could understand what the point is. But so far, I'm understanding if you do a twist on this software in a different way, you get a different result.
No, it's not.
Now, actually, the judge has a very good point. The judge has a very good point here. If I can't understand it, the jury can't understand it. And what's your point? Tell me, you want to put this person on the stand to say something. What is the point they're going to make? Not what are they going to say, you know, this and you twist that and you turn that and you resample this and it says this number to this. What's your point in doing these things? That's
The twist.
I think that's
if you
it's a good point he's
factor
making.
in kinship or relations, then that gives you a different result than when you don't factor in relationships. And what was testified to yesterday was not factoring relationships. And when I asked about that, Ms. Wilkerson said,
Yeah, like
"We
TED
don't have
Talks used to
that
be
data,"
good
but
like
they did
10
have
years
the
ago.
data. It's just that she is not qualified to give her opinion on that data.
I'll tell you, I don't understand it. I can guarantee you this jury won't understand what we're getting at, because the best I could get from Ms. Wilkerson.
And see, and that's what happened in the O.J. Simpson trial. Again, the DNA was very new. I think the first time with the DNA was used in a trial was 1987, and it was not used well or frequently after that. O.J. Simpson trial was only 7 years after it was first used. So it was still a very new technology. And if you watch the opening statements of the O.J. Simpson trial, especially those of you that may have watched it on a Retro Thursday about 2 years ago, that Marcia Clark was trying to explain the concept of DNA to the jury. And the example she used was based on a new movie that had just come out that a lot of people had seen. She was talking about DNA like you saw when they made the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. That's how Marcia Clark was explaining DNA to the jury, was using the example of Jurassic Park, which had just come out. That's how old Jurassic Park is. It came out in 1994. Wow. So yeah, back in the day, it was not used that extensively, and they did nearly 2 full weeks giving DNA testimony during the O.J. Simpson trial, and that was one of the first times that I said the jury is tuned out. The jury has no clue what these people are talking about, and that's why I think the prosecution dropped the ball. That was a huge ball drop. Phrasing, a huge case where the prosecution dropped the ball early on in the case. It was putting the DNA, well, it wasn't really, I mean, relatively early on, was putting this DNA testimony on for 2 weeks. And that's what he's saying here. I don't understand it. The jury's not going to understand it. But if you want to go ahead and lose the jury, my friend, you go right ahead. It's your game to lose here.
Is that you had known DNAs from 4 people She
Jim,
found some foreign
30
DNAs
years ago.
occasionally on some certain items. When she compared, when she did an analysis, she gave some conclusions about the odds of this being
I know
some
you know it was
evidence.
30. I was just saying.
Mr. Hartung being a contributor versus to the random chance of that happening in the world. And now you're saying it's the same thing, but it's going to be a different result, but I don't understand why. And I would think it really is explainable why there would be a difference.
It is.
Can you explain that to the judge?
I will try. One of the
The prosecutor's
examples
shaking her head.
is,
Wait,
one of
stop
the
it,
mixtures she
goddammit.
detected.
the prosecutor's shaking her head. Oh, no, she can't explain this.
One of the examples is one of the mixtures she detected. There was.
Judge.
I
She's
will
like,
try.
no, she can't
one of the
explain it.
examples.
Why is it doing that? Every time I click on it, it defaults. Stupid court TV, stupid player. Adara the Halsem with the $5. Infinger, Coxwell, Zulicker, Florida's mightiest heroes who stand against the evil tortoise queen and use the back doors to bring her to justice. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, dear. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that puts us 88 away from emotional support. Pig Dog Cam. Thanks. Let's get back to Frau Blucher teaching us about DNA.
Is one of the mixtures she detected. There was just say an 11, a 12, and a 13. She's including all four people. Donald's an 11-11, Von Seal's an 11-12, Richard is an 11-12, and John is an 11-13. So that 11 gets counted 4 different times, but the software, she's taking that person out and doing an unrelated calculation. So the software thinks that it's just this person. Each
Dang it,
time,
I
so
need
it's
a
gonna give
horse
really high
noise. So
statistic.
every time Frau
instead of
Blucher comes on, we can make a horse
the
noise.
other
but I
people
don't
actually
have
being
it.
into that mixture. I don't know if that helps.
The judge is like, explain it. She's like, I can't. He's like, well, try. She does. And if that helps, and the judge is like, no. She's like, sorry, judge. Boo says, Legal Vice teaching us. Are you understanding her? I don't have a clue what she's talking about. They had that chart with like all the numbers that was being read off a couple of weeks ago, 11 and 12. And we were all like, oh, kill us now. We can't listen to this anymore. She's bringing the, and like even the judge is so amused at the fact that nobody can make this shit make sense. He's just amused by the whole thing. He's like, all right, if you want the jury to hear this bullshit, you go right ahead.
Judge, for the sake, Judge, that sheet that Ms. Zuliger is reading from is a document that came out of Ms. Wilkerson's file, okay? And my understanding is that the analysts don't ask for it. This program
And
just
Catherine,
spits it
that
out.
is
But
100%
the
all
purpose
I
of those
know that she's
stats
talking
is
about.
when you are in a
That's
situation
the
where you're
only thing I can tell you about her
unknown
testimony.
siblings. For example, like Mr. Meyer said, if I say I didn't do it, my sister did, but they don't have my sister's DNA, then they generate these estimations of what the possibility would be for a sibling.
So you're saying, for instance, when she said the 1 in 29,000, it would be the odds of this person doing it with an unknown sibling,
Yes, sir.
which is not the situation here.
Yes, Judge, and that was the whole point. It's irrelevant because Ms. Wilkerson has all DNA profiles for the siblings.
So what, okay, assuming that's correct, what do you do the relevance to the case? We're not looking for unknown siblings.
Ms. Ziegler, is it only unknown siblings?
No, there's other unidentified alleles into these mixtures.
So what does that mean?
It's not just the 4 people she's reporting. There are samples that have other alleles, foreign alleles in them. And I just tried to give an example of the 11 being counted 4 different times, even though it just has the one entry into it.
Was that the rear entry?
So does
I'm
it
confused.
significantly change the probability from, say, 1 in 500 million down to 1 in 10,000?
It significantly changes it, yes.
And does it only have to be with unknown siblings?
It can be any sibling, a parent child, or a half sibling, I don't know, grandparents.
No, the point Ms. Jensen is making is she believes the opinion is only telling the listener what the odds are of whether it's Mr. Hartung or whatever subject versus an unknown population of siblings or relatives, not versus the entire world. And if that's true, it would not be relevant to this case because the relevant statistic is the entire world or the total number, not a restricted population of possible relatives.
But it has to go with the program is saying that if there are relatives, it is a lower number when you factor in these people as being relatives as opposed to being an unknown population.
Let me tell you where I think I understand so far. Anybody can tell me I'm wrong. That Ms. Wilkinson's number was Mr. Hartung against the world, and Ms. Zuliger's number is Mr. Hartung versus a theoretical relative.
Is that correct?
I think so.
You think so?
So if you would have a population where only relatives of Mr. Hartung existed, then that would be a relevant number. But that's not the world. Assuming my comprehension is correct at this point.
Is it correct, Frau Blucher?
Behind me, and she said, you're almost there. It's actually Mr. Hartung's unknown related sibling against the world. Not Mr.
Okay,
Hartung.
so not him against his unknown siblings, but all the unknown siblings that could be against the world,
All the unknown siblings.
Not even him.
It's getting more confusing.
which is not at all the situation. And falsely amplifies one component of the results. Again, I'm speaking based on that 10 minutes of discussion, so anyone can correct me if they want.
Judge, I think the only thing that the state would add, I mean, I'll do Ms. Zuliger, but as Mr. Myers already said, our expert has actually run samples.
Our expert
600
actually
samples.
knows what she's
She's
talking
worked
about.
samples. She's had training in it. Their lab is accredited. Ms. Zuliger has been to a training session. So her ability to even speak on these results that are generated in a file that Ms. Wilkerson can't even speak to. Again, our position is that she's not qualified to do so.
Well, really, it sounds like your expert could actually give an opinion, a science-based opinion. She's just not, quote, certified in it. But I think anybody probably has a thorough understanding of genetics and DNA could probably explain it. They may not be certified or qualified as a witness, but they may be a good science teacher. So I just need like the 8th grade level science teacher. But so far, it doesn't sound like it's close to being admissible because it's not the same comparison.
She's not going to get in.
The state's witness says you're talking about comparing all the unknown siblings to the world versus just Mr. Hartung to the world. And of course, that greatly reduces the ratio of odds because you've got, I don't know, how many theoretical,
Frau Blucher has
No
wasted her
relative.
time.
probably a whole bunch. You want to take a break and sit and talk about it to see if I'm missing something.
One other issue aside from this.
Oh, the audio cleared up real well there. Wow.
I'm
Suddenly
going
the
to-
audio is
intended
awesome.
to call Mr. Roddenberry back for
Oh, no,
the
Gene Roddenberry's
purpose
coming
of
back.
asking. He said in his testimony that Mr. Hartung would inherit, and this is what he's talking about at the time the wills were made, if everyone had been deceased. And I wanted to call him back to ask him that even now it was established that Mr. Hartung would inherit based on the probate that's been filed if he is to be acquitted. If he is to be convicted, then his son will inherit.
I don't think it's a criminal standard, is it?
Yeah.
Is it a criminal standard?
Yes, sir.
What do you mean? Sorry.
In the statutes prohibiting,
Yes, there's a Slayer statute.
Yes, sir.
Which is going to prohibit Mr. Hartung.
I'm
from
sure whatever it is you're
inheriting
saying,
the
young
estate
black
if he's
economist, is
it
true.
requires a conviction.
Yes, sir.
It
So there's no civil.
it
standard.
seems correct.
convicted. Sorry.
That's correct. But at the time that the will was executed, there was no way of knowing whether Richard or John had wills, and I was going to have him testify
I just have to believe you.
that it's not
I'm not
wasn't
very smart. Sorry.
predetermined that if everyone died at that time, Mr. Hartung would inherit. It would depend on whether John or Richard had a will. The implication is that my client knew if he killed everybody, he would inherit. And that's not necessarily true, because if John or Richard had a will, then their estates would go to the beneficiaries of their will.
I mean, they left
True.
someone because they don't have children.
Correct. If they could have written in, we want to give it to the waterfront mission, and then it would all go there, and Mr. Hartung would not have inherited. But
Perhaps he was
the
just
case
killing them
apparently they
hedge a
didn't
bet.
have a will, but at the time that all of this took place, there was no way of knowing that. So, and I just want to, I want to put him on to verify that if I argue that I'm not just making it up.
Are you also going to remind him not to keep talking after his testimony's through?
No.
I will let you do that, Your Honor.
Well, I don't know. When I do it, it's too late sometimes. I mean, he was.
Yes, yes,
Good intentions, but after a minute, when he stopped, he started just talking to the.
I will handle that.
Oh wow, he's ripping into the prosecution witness here. Oh my gosh, that's good. This judge has done. Oh shit, I'm such a bad person. Why did that happen? I luckily I know where we are. We're over here. I don't think that was me. Or was that the end? I think it ended. I think we're at the end.
That Mr. Hartung would get the estate if everyone else passed. That's a matter of argument.
So he was calling he was calling out the prosecution's witness, saying when he was on the stand the first time, he just kept talking after his testimony was over. He wouldn't shut up. So the judge was calling him out on that. That's fun.
That's what I'm going to put him on for, Judge. For that purpose.
You didn't touch on something like that already?
No, sir.
Okay, that's fine. But are we through talking about Ms. Zuliger? Am I pronouncing your name correctly?
You are, yes.
Yes, if I could talk to her outside for a moment, then I think we're good to go.
And who will be your next witness?
I'm going to have Mr. Roddenberry come in. He left his office to come in, so.
Anything else on Mr. Roddenberry?
No, sir.
Okay.
All right. Well, that was all confusing, wasn't it? All right. Now we got to go. We got to go back and open up the next witness. Hey, look, it's that guy, George Chittenden, or Bailey, or whichever one this guy is. There's nosy neighbor guy, and there's Purifoy the prison snitch. Awesome. All right. So who are they gonna? They're gonna recall one of these guys. Where is Roddenberry? All right. Anyway, they're gonna recall Roddenberry to the stand, and let's see what he has to say. Point 22, 23.
Full name for the jury and spell your last name for the court reporter.
My full name is
Oh, dear.
Seaborn Anderson Roddenberry Jr.
And you're the same Mr. Roddenberry that testified last Friday. Is that
Yes.
correct?
That is correct.
He is
Now,
he is the deceased Von Seal, the defendant's mother's estate lawyer. He's the guy that's handling the will. Luke Smith, thank you so much for the super chat. You get a bell ring for that one. Watch out for Deplane. nice tattoo from Fantasy Island reference there. Thank you so much for the Aussie $20. Woo, that puts us 68 away from the emotional support Potato Pig Doug Cam. 68. Are we gonna keep the streak alive for 8 days? All right, so he's bringing back lawyer attorney Roddenberry here to ask him about hypotheticals surrounding the wills. Is he also I done created Star Trek? Different Roddenberry, but yeah. Is this witness also a zombie? No, he looks sort of like an aged turtle, but you know, maybe
one thing I wanted to clarify is that at this point in time, Mr. Hartung is in the position of inheriting the estate of his mother and 2 brothers.
If he's found not guilty.
That is correct. He is the
Because fun fact, if you murder everyone in order to become the sole inheritor of a person's estate, you don't get to inherit that estate. So the defense lawyer is absolutely correct. At this point, he is the sole inheritor of Von Seal Smith's estate. If he's found guilty, he is no longer the heir to the estate, and I guess it would be his son. His son would take everything. Unless there's an intervening will, unless one of the 2 deceased people had a will, which is, I guess, what he's going to talk to him about here.
sole heir at law.
Now, that is because, as we now know, that no wills for John or Richard RT have been found. Is that correct?
That is correct. I'm not aware of any wills that they ever did.
Okay.
The deceased half brothers apparently didn't have a will, but I guess the defense can then argue my client would not have known that. So if there was an intervening will where he would be taken out of the will, why would he have murdered someone if he didn't know he was going to get it all? But that also raises an interesting question in estate law. It's the order in which they're killed. If the 2 half brothers were killed first, then their estates would go to, depending on what the inheritance laws, it could go up, it could go to Hartung, it could go somewhere else. It depends on what the intestacy, with dying without a will laws are in Florida. So it kind of depends on who died first as well. Interesting.
Had they done a will, each of them had a will. If they did, then the proceeds of their estates would have gone to whomever they designated in their will. Is that correct?
Possibly so. It depends on the will.
Mm-hmm.
If someone is married, their wife has certain legal rights. If they have children, they have certain legal rights. And since they did not, they could leave the will to whomever they wanted to. They could do a last will and testament. And the will.
Wait a minute. Let me just ask you. We know that neither Richard nor John were married.
They were both single, no children.
Right. So whomever they would have left their estates to, that's
Hey,
the
Nicola.
person that would have received
I can't wait to see your tortoise.
proceeds of their
Can you
estate.
show me your tortoise?
If they leave a will, the will would have to be valid in order to pass to somebody, but they could leave it to, theoretically, to whoever they wanted to. It wouldn't have to go to any family member.
So you can exclude a family member by a will.
Yes, you can.
And
Yep.
in 2015, you did not know whether they had a will or not.
I did not know, and as far as I know, they never had a will.
But you don't know one way or the other.
No, I do not.
And you did not know then. You know now that they didn't.
No, I did meet RT when he came in one time, but with his mother. But other than that, I've never met John.
I don't
And you
know.
wouldn't
Alan.
know if they may have used another attorney besides you.
I would not know.
I don't know.
Thank you, sir. I don't have anything further.
All right. So again, and she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I have to cross-examine. I can't have to cross-examine this." She's like, "Ugh, that was." Basically, he's just arguing my client didn't know whether or not a will existed. So therefore, why would he have murdered his entire family if there was a possibility of there being intervening wills? That would make it so my client didn't get anything. It's well, you can see by the look on her face exactly how exactly how compelling of an argument that is.
Hello.
Hello.
Just like, hello.
Mr. Roddenberry, you are not aware of any will that John Smith or Richard Smith had, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So if John Smith and Richard Smith die without a will, what happens?
Well, if they have no wife, no children, and they die without a will, it goes up to mom and dad.
Okay. Mom and dad are dead.
Okay, so-
Dad had died.
All right,
in
so it would go up.
2012,
It would go up.
about 2 years after.
All right, that I was saying it depends on what the intestacy laws are in Florida. Sometimes it doesn't go up, sometimes it does. But apparently, if someone is unmarried and dies without children, the parents would take. Estate law sucks, man. Like for those of you that are currently in law school or are thinking of going to law school, God help you with property and estates. Ugh.
After Dad and Mom did the will in my office, that was January 9 of 2009, I think it was. I got to go back. Yeah, January 9, 2009. So it would.
We have Ozzy Overlord says, "Oh my effing God, there was a dial on the Rodecaster separate for the headphones. I was blowing my ears out for nothing." Yeah, on mine it's the purple one there on the top left of those three dials. The left one, the one with the picture of the headphones next to it. I'm assuming that's the headphone dial you're talking about, the one that has the picture of the headphones next to it.
Go back to wherever it was at that time. And
Hey,
at
welcome,
that
Aussie
time,
Raiders. I'm sure it happened a long time ago,
they-
but hi.
Basically, everything would have gone up the line. When either one of them died, it would go up to Mom
Glad to be
because
of
Dad
service.
had already died.
Okay. And then Mom, we know, is deceased. So then where does it go?
Well, if Mom was deceased at the same time that RT and John were deceased, then it would go to the living heir at law.
And who's the living heir at law?
The defendant here,
Thank you, sir.
Donald Hartung.
See, that's what I'm saying. In the laws of intestacy and wills and trusts and estates, it sucks. Like who died first? What was their marital status? Where were they in juxtaposition to each other? Oh man, it's so highly technical. Legal Vices, yeah, my friends caused a big issue because he died. Then his dad died 3 months later, and his mom in PA needed Pittsburgh, I guess, and we lived in his house. So yeah, a mess. It took a long time to fix. See, that's like the worst thing when both parents die in a traffic accident. How do you determine which one? And say they have vastly different wills. Mom wants to give everything to Skippy, and Dad wants to give everything to Beatrice, and they both die in the same car accident, and you don't know who dies. Well, one of them wanted to give so if husband dies, then wife gets everything, and it should go to Skippy. But if mom dies first, then the husband would get it, and then his will would engage and go to Beatrice. But if you can't tell which one gets it, Skippy or Beatrice, or oh God, I hated property. Property and like the trust and estates was just put a bullet in my head. Ozzy Overlord says, I hate estates. My dad started calling me the lawyer of death because without fail, I'll get a call over Christmas because a client dies. In that case, dad is presumed to die first. Interesting. So yeah, anyway, this is what this guy here does or did for a living, was unravel these problems.
Thank you very much.
And she just cuts him right off. Shut up and stop talking, dude.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, they're going to call their next witness, but before they do, let's do the midstream grift here, shall we, people? For some reason, we've got 224 people watching this thrilling throwback Thursday on a Wednesday trial. We normally do this on Thursday, and when this trial is over, we're going to be starting a brand new super cool case that you're not going to want to miss. That should, with any luck, God willing, start 1 or 2 weeks. Well, it won't start next week. I guess it'll be either 2 or 3 weeks in the future. But right here, right now, we got the 225 of you watching and 162 likes. We need to get about 60 more of you to hit that like button. So please get down there and smash that like button and smash it repeatedly, but just make sure it's an odd number of times. And if you have not subscribed, I would be just tickled pink if you would do me the honor of subscribing to the channel. And if you are subscribed, as some of you saw yesterday, people were saying they've been unsubscribed from my channel. Please just double check to make sure you're still subscribed and come over here and take our like and subscribe poll. There's actually only 11 cheaters today. That's pretty good. There's 178 votes and 169 likes. I'm assuming 11. But all right, our poll today is Donald Hartung is. 8% of you say Donald Hartung is not a witch and not guilty. 18% of you say he is a not guilty witch. 30% of you say he's not a witch, but he's guilty. And 44% of you say he is a guilty witch. Burn him. All right. Well, we'll check back and see how that changes over the course of the next hour as we wrap this up. But again, this is just our short little midstream grift. As make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And there is a possibility that we could get into closing arguments today. Woo woo.
Ma'am, if you would please state your full name for the court and spell your last name for the court reporter.
Candy Lynn Zuleger, Zuleger.
Oops, that was the. I apologize, Frau Blucher. That was the wrong one. I meant to do this one, Frau Blucher. I thought he said he wasn't going to let her in as a witness. What happened? I thought he said, the last I heard the judge say something about her was, to me, this seems so far from being admissible, but yet here she is. All right, I guess the judge decided to let her in. Maybe I guess he must have gone through with the, all right, if you want to put this confusing person on as your witness, you go right ahead. Huh. JKD Buck, that would be young Frankenstein, not young Einstein. But anyway, huh. All right, I thought he wasn't going to let her in, but I guess he did. I still want to see Nicholas Tortoise around.
Zuliger, what is your profession?
Profession is forensic DNA analysis. I'm currently a consultant for forensic DNA testing.
And did I retain you to look at some DNA material?
Yes, you did.
In the case of state of Florida versus Donald Wayne Hartung.
Yes, I believe it was around November of 18.
Okay.
That's
And
Frankenstein.
are you being paid through the Judicial Administrative Commission?
I am.
And what is your hourly rate?
It's $200 an hour for out of court to review documents and $240 an hour for testimony.
And you've not been paid anything so far?
Ozzy's lucky.
There was one invoice that went out for $5,000.
He gets presents from
last
Nicola
summer.
and Ozzy.
And that is through the state that you're paid. Is that correct?
Correct.
Now, what is your educational and professional background?
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in biology, a Master of Science degree in cellular and molecular biology with a thesis.
We
started my
haven't
career
seen
in
the
forensic
defendant
DNA
yet
with the
today.
Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
They haven't shown him on camera
I worked
once.
there as it's called a crime laboratory analyst, but I performed forensic serology and DNA testing. I started the private laboratory of Trinity DNA Solutions. I was there for almost 15 years as the laboratory director.
Nice.
Did the same sort of testing. And in the end of 2018, sold the lab, and I've been a consultant since then.
How long did you work for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
I was there almost 8 years.
And then
Now,
you opened your own laboratory.
why is her direct testimony? Looking at the timestamp here, her direct testimony, cross-examine and any redirect, is going to take less time than her voir dire did. All right, let's just run with it.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Have you testified as to DNA in any courts in the state of Florida?
All the circuit courts in the state
Hey,
of Florida,
very nice.
military
Have a fun
court and
day at
federal
work.
courts, and some other states and jurisdictions.
Now, what I wanted to talk to you about today was transfer DNA. Can you explain to the jury what transfer DNA is?
Transfer DNA isn't necessarily a direct contact. That means, or a secondary transfer. Obviously, you can make a direct contact with an item. That's going to be a primary transfer. And then there can be a secondary and a tertiary level transfer. So in an example I use is in our laboratory, we tested a computer mouse and a phone, a landline phone, something with high DNA on it. So if
Island,
another
this may be
analyst took
the
my
defense's
computer
last
mouse,
witness. We're done with the prosecution.
used it for 30 seconds, and then touched a sterilized doorknob. So we swapped it for DNA, took it through the process, and we were able to see that my DNA transferred, even though I never touched that item. So
That's
this
interesting,
isn't a new issue. It's very well documented in the DNA literature that secondary transfer and tertiary transfer occurs.
So it's not a reckless theory. It's a well-established theory.
It's well established. It's not theory. It happens.
Now, in
Bob, oh my
can
God.
two items rubbing against one another cause a transfer of DNA?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
Oh,
it
yes.
can.
Yes, two objects rubbing against each other can most definitely cause a DNA transfer. That is a well-known fact. Two objects rubbing together can, in fact, create a DNA transfer. Just saying.
And I will say that more DNA will transfer if there's moisture involved. So if one of the items are damp or wet, there'll be more of a transfer to the second item if there's moisture.
Okay, so in case you're not following at home closely enough, she's saying that if one object rubs up against a moist object, there will be more DNA transferred than if there were just two dry objects rubbing against each other. So whilst two dry objects rubbing against each other will cause a DNA transfer, if one of those is moist, and I assume that the more moist it is, the more DNA would be transferred during the rubbing against each other process.
Moisture involved.
And you've already given the example of people touching things being transferred.
Stop touching things.
Could DNA be transferred from plastic gloves, such as gloves that are worn by crime scene analysts?
Definitely, yes. Again, you're touching items that have different DNA on them. Of course, you're not putting your DNA on it, but you're transferring,
Speak for
you're
yourself.
potentially transferring DNA from one item onto another item if you're not changing your gloves in between those exhibits. Specifically, when the evidence gets to a laboratory system, when I'm examining a piece of evidence, I use a different pair of gloves every time I examine that piece of evidence.
Giggity is strong.
So we
with
go to
this
great
one.
pains in the laboratory in order to ensure that there's no sort of contamination with other items. But if
Well, there shouldn't be any
that
pains
same
when
sort
you're
of,
rubbing to transfer DNA. It shouldn't
those same
be painful.
things are not adhered to during the crime scene, then you're going to have contamination, and me or anybody else at the DNA level aren't going to be able to
Exactly,
detect
Boosh.
that.
Exactly. With regards to the door, she would need to moisten the knob so there would be more of a DNA transfer. Exactly. The more you moisten the knob, the more DNA transfer there's going to be.
Contamination. It's just going to appear as a mixture.
You see? Now
So
we
in other words,
understand.
if
Why
a
didn't she
crime
just say
scene
that when she
analyst
was
were
under
to pick
voir
up a
dire?
piece of evidence that has DNA on it, bag it or take it into their custody, not change their gloves and pick up another piece of evidence, could the DNA from the initial piece of evidence be transferred to that second piece of evidence?
It could.
And if that were to happen in the laboratory, would you be able to pick that up? Would you realize that it was a transfer of DNA from one item to the next?
Oh, yeah.
If
you'd
it occurred at the
realize.
crime scene, no. We have things in place in the laboratory to ensure it doesn't once it gets into the lab.
But if it happens at the crime scene, you have no way of knowing that.
I have no way to detect that. No.
Yes, Helena handbasket.
Your
Exactly.
report would reflect
Now I need
Just
like the monkey
the
looking
DNA on
scan
both items,
meme.
even if it was the
Yes.
crime scene tech that transferred it. Is that correct?
Correct. It'll just appear as a mixture to me.
Is there any way for you to be able to tell if a person picks up one item, then picks up another item, whether that DNA will transfer? You can't say for sure it's going to transfer.
I can't say for certain it will transfer complete. There are so many different variables as to if it will transfer, if there's moisture involved, if the person sheds a lot of DNA more than others. There's a lot of variables. Correct. Yes.
Because whatever DNA is
Frau Blucher
will then be
Wow.
picked up by the gloves possibly.
It could, yes.
And that's just don't know. Is that correct?
You don't know if you're not going to change gloves.
And is that why you change gloves?
That is why we change gloves in the laboratory.
So without that safeguard at the crime scene.
No,
you
don't put
know what's
Lysol
been
on the knob.
transferred
It
from
burns.
one item to the next.
You wouldn't know.
I don't have anything further, Your Honor.
Well, all right. So again, just what she testified to during voir dire, it's possible for DNA to transfer to an object that you never touched. There you go. That's that was her killer testimony was his DNA may be on that bloody hammer even though he didn't touch it.
Ma'am, how many hours have you put in so far?
I don't know. Probably the past few days, it's been close to 40.
Here's the
I
stupid
don't
how much
recall
do you
how
get
much
paid and how
prior to
much have you
that.
billed shit.
Have you reached your maximum allotted?
I believe so, yes.
And what was that?
There was a second order for 15,000.
And what was the first?
The first one was 5,000. The second one was 15,000. There should be another one for 5,000.
So 25,000 total.
Correct.
When you were talking about the transfer of DNA, every transfer, the amounts diminish. Is that accurate?
That's correct.
Well, yeah, dumbass.
And when you
That's how
did
it
your
works.
test at your facility, and you touched on it, there's a lot of variables that go into it. How sweaty someone's hands could be,
How moist.
whether
The
they had
term is
washed their hands
moist.
recently. Lots of variables, correct?
There are a lot of variables, correct.
And I think in your situation, you had somebody touch the mouse for 30 seconds, the doorknob for 30 seconds, 30 seconds.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes 30 seconds is all it takes for
And I
a DNA
believe,
transfer.
I don't know if you testified to this, but when you would find the profile, it was the minor profile.
Yeah, the minor profile was detected each time, yes,
Right.
but it was a minor profile.
You testified that if moisture was involved, it could more easily transfer.
Correct.
And by
Oh,
moisture,
hey,
you're
wait,
not talking
I wasn't
about
even
water.
ready for it. Hang on.
Not necessarily.
You're
But
talking
it
more
could
like
be.
sweat, blood, saliva.
When you're talking about a bodily fluid, that's going to transfer a lot easier than anything else. I'm speaking more towards epithelial cell DNA, skin cells.
Right. And I believe you testified if contamination happens at the crime scene, you have no way of knowing it.
Correct.
Thank you, ma'am. Those are my questions.
Now, with DNA, secondary DNA or a contributor to DNA, are those the same things?
It depends on how you're using them. Secondary transfer means that the main DNA donor, the person who didn't touch the item,
Nothing.
is transferring that DNA.
Okay, so you heard the testimony of Ms. Wilkerson yesterday,
Correct.
and she talked about some transfer DNA,
Correct.
and you have your main contributor, correct?
Dollar store Ned
What do you
Yes,
call
Beatty.
that person?
That's a major DNA donor.
Okay, and after the major DNA donor, what do you have?
If it's a mixture, sometimes you'll have what's called a minor DNA donor.
And are there any other types of DNA donors besides a minor and a major?
Well,
What
you
is
can
this,
have
music
several
class or
minors
murder
or
class?
2 majors. It depends on the number of donors. You can also have what's called an indistinguishable mixture, meaning all the peaks are about the same height. You can't tell a major from a minor, but you can include into that mixture.
And DNA can come in various forms, is that right?
Oh, yes.
It can come from skin cells, blood, sweat, spit. What else? Did I cover most of them?
Most, but
Pretty
not
much,
all.
yes.
Okay.
Say it. Oh, she
And-
wants to say it.
As a crime scene analyst,
Frau
you
Blucher
can't
wants to
necessarily
say it.
see DNA. Is that right?
No, when we're talking about transfer DNA, you don't see that.
Well, when you're swabbing surfaces for DNA, you don't know if it's there or not. Is that right?
No, we don't.
The only time you're pretty sure there's DNA is if it's like spit that
Or,
you can see it, or if it's blood. Is that right?
or,
Blood would be the easiest. That way, you know, you're pretty much going to get a DNA profile. But yes, when you're
or,
swabbing for epithelial cell DNA, you have no idea until you run the DNA if it's there.
And is the epithelial cell DNA the easiest one to contaminate? Or you get secondary DNA from?
all right, come on, Yoda. Strawberry, you can't keep
I
bumping the
think
camera like that.
You're
Sorry.
using different
You lost your
terms.
camera. You lost your
Try to
under the
correct
desk
me then.
privileges.
I'll try. It's because most epithelial cell DNA profiles are low level. You're going to see a lot more low level mixtures mixed into that because the testing that we do is much more sensitive than it was previously in the previous generation. So we're picking up profiles that we never would have before. So it's more uncommon to see single source profiles these days than mixtures. Almost everything I see is a mixture.
And is that just because the software that is being used is that much
There's just
better?
more DNA
It
mixing
was
going
because
on.
of the DNA testing kit. It can bring up low levels of DNA. And also there is a new
Oh, boosh. No, it isn't.
testing that we can do for the statistics, STR mix. It can calculate those low level contributors, their inclusion, whereas we couldn't do that previously.
It's just like everything else, everything's getting more sophisticated.
It is getting more sophisticated, yes.
I don't have anything further.
All right, nothing further. Okay, thank you.
Ooh, that was riveting.
Afternoon, ma'am. Can you state your name again?
Jennifer Wilkerson.
And you're employed at FDLE?
Yes.
Yesterday you testified.
All right, this seems to be the prosecution's rebuttal phase. Wait, where'd Roddenberry go? Oh, we had Roddenberry before. All right, yeah, that's right. All right, she's going to testify for like a minute? Really? Oh my Lord! All right.
The filter paper that you use to test the hammer or the hammer in
hammer.
the slot. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
I need a hammer.
22D.
A hammer to
Yesterday you
hammer
testified it was negative for blood. Is that accurate?
I believe I've testified that I didn't test it, and I did.
Okay, and what was the result?
It gave chemical indications for the presence of blood.
All right, thank you, ma'am. That's it, Judge.
Nothing further.
Thank you, ma'am.
State rested.
All right, that's it, ladies
All right,
and
members of
germs.
the Jury, that closes the evidence for the case. So we will recess for today and have closing arguments tomorrow morning, and then you'll deliberate after closing arguments. Do you want to start at 9 o'clock?
Sure. That's fine.
Bob the Builder.
Okay, so again, let me remind you not to have any contact with any information regarding
Don't have
this
any
case,
contact with DNA.
and hope you enjoy your afternoon. I think the weather's nice today, and please be here at 8:45 tomorrow morning.
Either Teller from Penn and Teller or the guy that played the Nazi in Blues Brothers. All right, we are here at the closing arguments portion of this case. Both sides have rested. All of the evidence has been presented, and we are now at the closing arguments. Her closing arguments last for 54 minutes, and the defense closing arguments lasts for more than an hour. So what we're going to do is we will watch. I was thinking about whether we should shut it down or not and then start with the closing arguments next time, but we're going to power through and watch at least another 30 minutes of the prosecution's closing arguments. Stop touching knobs, says Bush. Exactly. Just, well, under certain circumstances, which we won't get into right now. Young Black Economist says everything has a tiny bit of DNA on it, which makes sense in my opinion. Everything sits in the world surrounded by people all day. But yes, as they were saying, there are certain things such as a moist object rubbing against a dry object, which leads to the exchange of more DNA than would just normally happen sitting around and doing nothing. So yes, you are correct.
Attorneys now will present their final arguments. Please
Why you do that?
remember that what the attorneys say is not evidence or your instructions on the law. However, do listen closely to their arguments. They are intended to aid you in understanding the case. Each side will have equal time.
Porcelain Thunder says, "Hi, Jeff."
An argument and a rebuttal argument after the defense has spoken. Ms. Jensen.
Thank you, Your Honor. May it please the court.
All right, go Sarah Palin.
Defense.
You go, Sarah. Oh.
Ladies and gentlemen. In July of 2015, Von Seal Smith, Richard Smith, and John Smith were all alive and well.
Because
They
the
were
nosy
living,
neighbor knew about it.
They
He
were
saw
eating,
them.
they were breathing. John and Richard had done the same type of work for over 20 years. This family of three was minding their own business, staying to themselves, and taking care of one another for years.
Except
For
for
years,
the defendant who would feed them
and
dinner
no
every
one
Tuesday.
tried to harm them. Until that Tuesday, July 28th, 2015, when this defendant, Donald Hartung, already had in his mind that he was ready to retire.
You're right.
58 years old. He wanted to cash in on his family's fortune. He wanted the money that he knew he was never going to get unless and until all three of his family members died. These murders were brutal, vicious,
Damn it, I'm
violent,
going to miss the Nosferatu button.
and personal. You heard about the rifts in this family from the defendant's own son. This defendant was the black sheep.
Barbara.
He was the outcast. He did not even have a key to the family's home. This defendant was excluded from his own mother's will. Does that not tell you how divided this
And yet,
family
with
was?
the loving man continued
It
to
was
come
them,
over to the house every
Bonnie,
Tuesday and cook
Richard,
them dinner.
and John against him. And then when their heads were beaten and their throats were slashed, it was him against them. You've heard from the evidence. The Smith family was very unassuming. You would never know just by looking at them or what they drove or looking at their house, especially inside, that they had money. But they did. You have State's Exhibit 285 in evidence, dated March 31st, 2012, 2 months after Ms. Smith's husband died. You've got the account of John showing $213,000. The accounts of Mom showing $332,000.
Daddy was
The
insured,
accounts
man.
of Richard showing $349,000 for a total of almost $900,000. Can you just leave it like that? Thank you.
I'm
you just leave it like
assuming that was
Great.
probably on a
Thank you,
$1
sir.
million payout from the dad's insurance company.
And this defendant knew about it. Because remember, he told his coworker, Mr. Bailey, that his mom was wealthy. And when she died, he was going to get the money, quit his job, and retire.
Wait. He told who?
Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen,
Wait, he
3
told
weeks
who?
later, Mr. Bailey.
Who's Mr.
that
Bailey?
His mom, $32,000.
Time out.
The accounts of Richard showing $349,000.
Did she say
For a
co-defendant?
total of almost $900,000.
I totally misheard that.
Can you just leave it like that? Thank you.
Co-worker.
No, you just leave it like that.
Okay.
Great.
That's
Thank
right.
you,
The
sir.
co-worker guy came and testified.
And this defendant knew about it.
I heard like co-defendant.
Because remember, he
in there.
told his coworker, Mr. Bailey,
Right. I heard
that his
co-defendant. I
mom was
like, what?
wealthy. And when she died, he was going to get the money, quit his job, and retire. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, 3 weeks
He's like,
later,
oh, God, she got me. God.
this defendant submitted his letter of resignation. This defendant and this defendant alone had the motive to murder his 3 family members. That's the motive, so let's talk about the opportunity. Who knew John, Richard, and Bonnie's schedules that also had a motive to murder? That man. You've heard evidence that Bonnie, 78 years old, probably not in the best health, had fallen recently, which is why Richard had put the cameras up.
Could she get back up?
She's always home. Doesn't
I've
really go
fallen
anywhere.
and I
Sits in her
can't get
recliner,
up.
orders QVC. Who knows that has a motive to murder? Donald Hartung. John Smith. You know he works at Walmart, had been there over 20 years, worked on Monday, was off Tuesday,
Not
Wednesday,
now she can't.
Thursday,
Oh, no,
Friday,
Daly. That was
Saturday,
good.
and Sunday.
Touche.
Who knew his schedule that had a motive to murder? This defendant. Richard, you know, worked Monday through Friday, stayed late on Tuesdays because he didn't
Why is
want
Vladimir
to come
Putin in
home.
the back of the courtroom there?
He knew this defendant was at the family home on Tuesdays, and you heard the testimony of his coworkers. He was reluctant. He was hesitant. He did not want to go home because he knew that man was there. He worked late on Tuesdays. Who knew that also had a motive to murder? This defendant. The evidence has shown beyond a reasonable doubt that the deaths occurred on Tuesday, July 28th, 2015.
Has it?
You know
Has
that
it
John's
really?
last day at work was that Monday. The Walmart employee brought the video surveillance in. He said law enforcement came to him and said, we need to know the last day that John worked. Monday the 27th. And what's interesting, if you think way back to the beginning of the trial, when law enforcement responded to the scene, they went and got Mr. Hartung, brought him back. And the officer that had been waiting there said, do you think your family's here? What can you tell us about him? And he said, well, the 2 cars are there, meaning Mom and Richard. So they should be there. This is on a Friday. Well, what about the other brother? He said he should be there too. This is on Friday.
Yes.
If John was alive,
The Walmart worker was the one whose favorite pastime. He didn't get trapped under the mower. He got trapped on the mower. He got trapped on the riding lawnmower on at least 2 separate occasions and had to be rescued by the neighbor. Yes. Trapped under the mower would be a bigger problem. Yes. The Walmart working brother had a propensity for being trapped on the riding mower.
he would have been at work. This defendant said he was there because he knew he was there. That was the last place he left him after he killed him. John was off on Tuesday, normal scheduled day off. You heard from the neighbor, Mr. Chittenden, who said he saw John, I think he said mid-morning, go to the street, get the trash can, and bring it back. So we know John was alive, obviously. You know that John missed his doctor's appointment on Wednesday, the 29th. You heard from the office manager. He was a patient since 2003, missed his appointment, and this appointment had been confirmed. You have the video surveillance of Richard
No, just Don. There was testimony. The nosy neighbor guy testified that at least on 2 separate occasions, he had to go and rescue the Walmart worker's son from the riding lawnmower because he had been trapped on the riding lawnmower twice, at least. So I am being nice. I'm just telling you what was testified to under oath in a court of law. It's not me. It's the testimony.
Leaving work on July 28th, 2015 at 6:36 p.m. And look at what he's wearing.
Dun, dun, dun.
He is wearing the exact same thing
Fangs.
when his body is found on Friday the 31st. And not only that, he's wearing his credentials.
Ew.
What does that tell you? He was murdered right when he got home from work. You heard the other employees. There is no reason to wear those credentials if you are not at work.
Maybe he had a Walmart fetish. I don't know.
You have Richard's phone records. His last outgoing phone record ever is July 28th, 2015 at 6:46 p.m.
Okay,
He called home.
Oh, he's
You
wearing
heard
the
from
same
Tammy
clothes he
Duncan,
was wearing on Tuesday. His
friend and
last
his
phone
coworker
call
that
was on
said
Tuesday.
every
He's
day
wearing the
when
badge he was
Richard
wearing
went
on
home,
Tuesday.
he called his mom.
I'll give you that. That
No
does sort of
outgoing phone
establish he
calls,
died
no
on
outgoing
Tuesday.
texts ever after that time.
All right. Fair enough.
You have Von Sill's pill case. Everything gone except for Tuesday p.m.
What happened to Wednesday, Thursday, and
You
Friday?
have the food in the oven. That is the food that this defendant cooked on Tuesday the 28th, still in the oven when the bodies are found on the 31st. You heard Dr. Minyard.
Oh, yeah, we heard about the stomach
During the course of the
contents
autopsy,
Ugh.
she checked the stomach contents.
Corn.
John had corn and green beans. Mom had corn. Richard had crinkle fries. What did Richard eat that day with Tammy at Sonny's barbecue?
Crinkle
She
fries.
said either a hamburger or a pulled pork sandwich and crinkle fries. The outside trash has 1 bag of trash in it, ladies and gentlemen. You know that John brought the trash from the street Tuesday mid-morning. There is 1 bag of trash in that trash can.
Ozzy Overload.
These are 3
She didn't need
people,
Wednesday,
families.
Thursday,
They
and
are
Friday.
heavy.
Fair enough. All right.
Obviously, they eat a lot. Not one other piece of trash
They're
in that
fat
trash can.
fucks. Obviously, they eat a
And you
lot.
heard from Mr. Chittenden, who said they always had a ton of trash. QVC boxes, QVC packages. 3 people.
For those of you
One
living
bag
in the
of trash.
States, is QVC still a thing?
What's in that bag of trash?
My mother was
food
a QVC
That
hoarder.
Donald Hartung cooked on Tuesday the 20th.
Or Ida, owned by J.R.
There's also the
Simplot,
paper in there.
from Idaho.
Tuesday the 28th. And then you heard testimony from the crime scene technicians that the
C4
Wednesday,
explosives in the
Thursday,
mailbox?
and Friday paper were still in the mailbox. To put it all in context for you, Monday the 27th was John's last day at work. Tuesday, the defendant goes to the Smith family home. The evidence shows that is the day that family is murdered.
Hartung murders entire family. It's like
Richard
a journal
left work
entry.
at 6:36. His last outgoing call was 6:46.
Help, I'm
He
being
never
murdered.
responded to Tammy's text that night, and she told you that was unusual. Wednesday, the 29th, John did not show for his doctor's appointment. Richard still did not respond to any text from Tammy. The Wednesday newspaper still in the mailbox. Thursday, John does not show up for work.
Alan, what's up? We have the
Richard
Alan
does not show
contingent
up
here.
for work.
The double L and the
Richard
single
does
L.
not respond to any calls or texts from Tammy, from David Flatt, from his employer, from anybody. And remember, he's supposed to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. No response. Thursday newspaper, still in the mailbox. On Friday the 31st, the bodies are found. Richard is in the same clothes that he had on Tuesday.
Yeah,
with his
Richard was the one that
credentials
got trapped on the
on Sill's pillbox.
on the riding lawnmowers.
All
John
the
was
pills are
the
gone except for
IT specialist
Tuesday
for
PM.
Homeland Security.
The Friday newspaper is in the mailbox. And the trash cans have trash can Tuesday only. Even the inside trash.
I am Dracula.
The inside trash has defendant cigarette butts from being there on Tuesday. Cleanup from the food that was cooked. Blood from the cleanup of the murders. Look at the timeline, the details of what you know through the evidence that happened on Tuesday, the 28th. According to Donald Hartung's interview, that he arrived at the house a little bit earlier than normal. Obviously, he had a lot to do that day.
Oh, nice.
Shows up earlier than
Zing.
usual.
He had a lot of
He
killing to
says
do.
he had his dog. You heard from the neighbor, and you heard from Marlon Purifoy. Defendant did not have his dog.
Okay, I believe nosy neighbor. Nosy neighbor knows everything.
Hartung cooked. You heard that from his interview. You see the evidence in the trash, the food in the oven. We know John and Bonnie ate.
Come on,
because
Donald.
the stomach.
I got to take issue with Donald here, making the crinkle cut fries. He just took the Ore-Ida potatoes and chucked them in the oven. Come on, if you're cooking dinner for your family, how long does it take really just to chop up some potatoes and chuck them in the oven? Come on, make real fries, dude.
Contents during the course of their autopsy. Purifoy told you that this defendant removed the D-Link cameras that Richard had set up to watch his mom because she had fallen.
And she couldn't get up.
This defendant killed John first in the den, beat him in the head with a hammer, slit his throat.
Beat on the brat, beat on the brat, beat on the brat
You
with a
heard
baseball
from
bat.
Marlon Purifoy that this defendant told him that he tortured his mother by cutting her pinky in order to get safe combinations.
Oh yeah, that was also the one of the part of the alleged testimony was he lopped off mom's pinky finger, lopped off her cocktail finger so that he could get the combination to the safe that had like 500 grand in it.
How could Marlon Purifoy know that? The medical examiner didn't know that. Hartung killed Bonnie in the family room, in the living room where she normally sat, beat her in the head with a hammer, slit her throat. Think about this. In the photos where John is situated in the den, he's sitting in the chair where he always sits, watches TV, and there is, pardon the description, but there is blood and hair and matter on those boxes behind him. There is nothing around Bonnie. Nothing. No blood spatter on the ceiling. No blood spatter on the table behind. Why? Because that's his mom. He put something over her head. Sheet, towel, something. Because no matter what he's doing, how horrible it is, that's still his mother. No one else is going to come in there and put something over Bonnie's head.
Unless it was an intruder.
He drug her body to John's room. Again, who else is going to do that? He covered John and Bonnie's bodies. You heard from the investigator that was talking to him. They thought it was because he didn't want to look at him. No idea about this concept of time of death or body temperature, right? Bodies are covered. Defendant goes through Bonnie's purse, gets the safe combinations. You heard testimony from Purifoy that this defendant may have gotten some money out of a safe. I don't think he specified which one. And then the defendant cleans up. There's evidence of food, blood inside the trash can inside the house. This defendant turned off those TVs. Who else is going to do that? Nobody. The TV in the living area where Bonnie was murdered, TV was off.
How do you know it was on?
The TV in the den area where John was found, TV's off.
How do you know it was on? Nobody testified.
Richard leaves work 6:36. You know that from the video surveillance. We know at 6:46 he makes his last outgoing call. We know Richard arrives home from the neighbor's testimony. And at that point, this defendant ambushes Richard. He shoots Richard as soon as Richard walks in that den. Richard struggled. You heard testimony from Dr. Menyard. He has defensive wounds. His fingers are cut. He struggled. And who else told you that? Marlon Purifoy. How would Marlon Purifoy know that?
Because Marvin Purifoy is the prison snitch. Marvin Purifoy probably knew about it because the prosecution told him about it. That's how Purifoy knew about it. That prison snitch was the worst, honest to God, the worst prison snitch I have ever seen in my life. It was bad.
He can't. Richard struggles. This defendant slits Richard's throat. This defendant grabbed Richard's belt to flip him over.
Ooh.
This defendant stole Richard's keys and his wallet. You heard from Matt Enfinger that the wallet and the keys of Richard were never recovered in this case.
So how do you know Hartung took them?
Then the defendant covers Richard's body. Not as much covering as the others. Bonnie has 19 bags of stuff on top of her.
She's reaching for
John has 4. Richard has 2. Obviously, this defendant's got to get out of there.
She's reaching for a good 70%.
This defendant changes his clothes, puts everything in a bag to keep from getting blood in his car, goes through Richard's belongings, the black case, the checkbook. Hartung smokes a cigarette. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's in that exact order, but you know that there is a cigarette smack dab in the middle of that trash and 4 at the bottom. Throws that butt inside the trash. You know that from the DNA. And then this defendant left after Richard got home, according to the neighbor. And it was around twilight.
You have
Look at
entered
the evidence that you have
zone.
to back that up.
Beyond this world, strange things.
You have a picture of Bonnie's pinky.
And the key, unlock the door. See what your fate
You have
might have in
Bonnie's
store.
black purse mixed with the bloody paper towels that have her blood on them. You have a black purse in the trash can. It's got this defendant's DNA on the handle, greater than 700 billion. It's got this defendant's DNA on the latch. It is a match to this defendant's DNA. Now, If you recall, you heard from crime scene technician Masita. He took the pictures of the defendant's house. And he says, when you walk in the front door, there's a shelf that you look at directly. And he said, there's just this piece of paper on that shelf. Took pictures. Think about that. 25, 26, 28.
Okay, maybe I missed something very, very important. I never heard anybody testify that that was the actual safe combination. Did any of you that have watched this, did I miss something? I don't recall anybody testifying what the safe combination was. I just don't. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm saying I don't recall. I don't recall anybody saying what the combination of Von Seal Smith's in the floor safe was. I never heard that. So assuming that I'm not crazy, who the fuck knows what those numbers are? They could be fucking lottery numbers. There's 6 of them. They're lottery numbers. Right. See, none of you seem to remember it either.
One safe. 37, 42, 52. Second safe.
Who testified to that?
You also have a photograph of a list that was in one of Von Seal's purses in the trash. And it's a list of her medication. Can't forget anything.
I mean, it probably was, but nobody testified to that.
On this list of Bonnie's medications.
No, Norma, there was no
date.
handwriting experts or testimony at all.
2011. Look at the writing from that piece of paper found in the defendant's home and that piece of paper.
Okay, well now they're testifying to the same number, huh? the same handwriting. Okay, the 2s are the same. The 7s are arguably the same. There's no 1s on the other. All right. Okay. Now this is from 2011, which was almost 4 years to the day before the trial. The murder was on the 28th of July in 2015. So like 4 years and 1 day. Interesting.
Found in Bonnie's purse. Look at the 2s.
Hey, Gigi, we're getting ready to shut it down
7s.
here in about 3 minutes.
Richard's safe was found open.
Yeah.
You know that there was a lot of money found inside.
Okay, now that raises the question. What do we got? We got 5s, 10s, some Jacksons there. We got a lot of Benjamins. That's a significant amount of money. Now look, if he opened the safe, why didn't he take the money? If that's what he was after, why did he leave a significant amount of money in the safe if the money is what he was after? Questiones.
And you may be asking yourselves, well, why wouldn't he take all that money?
Yeah, that's exactly what I just asked. What's your theory, Sarah Palin?
Because he knows it's his.
What?
He knows that money is going to be his.
Oh, horseshit.
He is the sole heir to this entire estate.
Horseshit.
According to Purefoy, he took some money out of a safe. Maybe he took some, maybe he didn't. Maybe he missed it. But whatever is in that house is
He's
going
like,
to
no, I
belong
didn't miss anything,
to
bitch.
that defendant. And then, of course, you know that there was a safe found
Ooh,
in
nice,
Bonnie's
Jake
closet
Butt.
that was missed by the sheriff's office. They didn't even know about that safe until Marlon Purefoy.
Until you told Martin Purify to testify about it? Is that
You
what
have
you meant to
DNA.
say?
And I know when the witnesses testified, it's confusing and it's complicated and it's messy and it's hard to understand. The bottom line is this. Richard's purse is found in the purse. His
Man purse.
case, his fabric
His
case is found on the kitchen counter next to this hammer. And you know that that hammer tested positive for blood in 4 different places. The head.
All right. Well, this is where we're going to wrap this up today. We're going to wrap this up at the 22-minute mark of the prosecution's closing arguments. And what we'll do is next week we'll watch the last 30 minutes of the prosecution's closing arguments. We will watch the last hour and however many minutes of the defense's closing argument, and then we'll watch the verdict. We are going to wrap this case up next time. And I think we might be doing this on Tuesday of next week, because next week, Megan Fox and I we're going to start tomorrow, but continuing through next week, we're going to be doing the neighbor wars that we've been following. You don't want to miss that. That is Judge Craig DeThomas's Judge Grudge from Levy County, Florida, from the What the Hales and Lynette Peterson case. It's another case he's involved in where he is even more off the hook and biased. So we're going to continue following that case all through next week. But there's one day, I think Megan said you wouldn't be able to do it on Tuesday. So next Tuesday, we might wrap this case up. For those of you watching on the replay crew or watching at some distant point in the future, it doesn't really matter to you. Just go to the next part in the series in the Hartung playlist. Hey, all right. So that brings us to the end here. This brings us to the end of another Throwback Thursday on a Wednesday. We'll call it Witchcraft Wednesday. Gosh, that's just about it. All right, by a show of ones, put a 1 in the chat if you just happen to be from or living in Scotland currently. I promised I would do this. So, how many Scotsmen and Scotswomen do we have here in chat? Let me know who exists. I'm curious. Because we've got Morg, we got obviously Alan. We've seen Alan on the Christmas show, so we know Alan is definitely Scottish. Nicola, are you still here? Is Nicola still with us? Joe, where are you at? Okay, Joe Choi's here. Hi, everybody. Joe, you're from just down the street from Alan, right? Is that what I recall? Anyway. I'm getting this thing ready here. Right. Hang on here. All right. I'm trying to embiggen this as much as I can. Hang on. Bear with me here while we wait, because this is an event in and of itself. All right, I think this is as embiggened as I can make it. As some of you or many of you may know, the great you're in Joe Choice in Liverpool. Alan, who lives just down the street from you? Poor Nicola's away making dinner, so she's gonna miss out on this. Hopefully she'll come back. Lynn is just down the road from you. All right. You never remember a new tag. All right, that's who it was. I was confused, but all right. Well, again, this has nothing to do with anything we've talked about so far today. Nicola's channel, Nicola Maxwell, has a great little channel where she has like things from her home and her tortoises and things. She has a lovely Scottish accent. But anyway, as many of you, if not most of you, may be aware, the great game of golf was invented in Scotland, and I've got a new golf coach. It's a little bit hot to be golfing here now, but I've got a new golf coach who happens to be from Scotland, And I videotaped our last golfing coach session, and I just thought I would show you a short video from my last golf instruction session.
If you get it in the slot, the club will release itself. You're getting it to the top, and in any other throwing action, you get it into the slot. But for some reason, you need to work on your trust of your implement. The physics will do the rest. You just have to get it in here. You get it up here, and you say, uh-oh, target is over there. How am I going to go from here to there to target? Because this is designed for that. The ball is the target. So you go this way. Oh, no. You're trying to reason with the landscape. How about you reason with Newton? How about you trust in yourself, Marucci?
Just a little bit. Just a little bit, you know. And Alan has to be the contrarian. He's Irish, you know. I know, but play along, people. Play along. Just play along, okay? Shh. You know how we know he's Irish? We can understand what the fuck he's saying. Just kidding. Anyway, I just thought I would throw that because I found it mildly amusing, and I had to blame the Scots for that one. Anyway, that's it. I really had no reason to do that. I thought it was like amusing earlier today, and I just thought, you know. And for some reason, Alan came to mind, and I thought, well, let's just go. And then Alan was the contrarian. All right, let's see where we can send you. What's going on right now? I don't know who is doing anything right now. Let's find out who is live. Where can we send you? Don't insult my Scottish family, Jeff. Yeah, because blaming Canada is too easy. All right, I'm looking right now to see where we can send you, all you live people, all you people that are watching on the replay crew. You probably already stopped watching, but just in case you're still here, you know, you're just going to go wherever it's programmed to go after we end up here. All right, customization, redirect. Baker's doing Corey Richins. Broken Baker is doing Corey Richins, hearing to remove something. It just says hearing to remove, and it has ... Catnot Williams is doing day 116 of the YSL trial, and that looks like that's about it. We haven't done a Baker raid in a while, so let's send you. Well, Recovery Addict is doing just a random court stuff, so let's do Corey Richins. We'll send you on over to Corey Richins, my Utah girl. Corey Richins, my Utah homie, murderous. Right. Right. New Hannah Gutierrez hearing on September 27th. Yes, that will be her motion for a new trial, I believe. And also beginning on September 16th, for those of you that are followers of Maritime Monday, it may be a Maritime Week on the week of beginning September 16th, because that is when the U.S. Coast Guard begins streaming their live hearings on the Titan submersible implosion incident, and we're going to be following that. It may be a Maritime Week, sort of like Shark Week. It might be Maritime Week here on the channel while we watch the Coast Guard's public hearings on the Titan submersible implosion. So there's going to be a lot going on in the September. And then October 7th is when Sarah Boone begins her trial. That'll be fun. So September, October, we got some fun stuff going on. Right. Let's see. I'm apologizing to Jeff for not going along with it. All right, everybody, that's it. We're going to wrap this up now. Thank you, mods, for being here. Our emotional support potato pig dog cam streak is broken. We lasted 7 days.
We lasted 7 days, Yoda. They just didn't want to see you, Strawberry.
Stop licking Yoda's butt. Damn it. Hi, I'm back. All right. I just assume it's because you're all saving your shekels, pesos, pounds, euros, and whatnot for F-It Friday, which is coming up this Friday. The new F-It Friday, the new revamped F-It Friday, 2 days from now. Actually, 2.5 days from now. So don't miss that. I assume that's why I think you're just saving all your shekels for dropping it on us for the F-It Friday. We got a great panel lined up so far. I'm going to be posting on Twitter the guest list that we've developed up to this point. More people are coming. Don't miss the F-It Friday. So tomorrow with Thursday morning, Friday morning U.S. time with Megan Fox doing the Neighbor Wars, continuing that hearing and document reading. And then Friday evening U.S. time, beginning about 8 p.m. Eastern on Friday, the new and revamped F-It Friday will be kicked off with a series of rewards, punishments, neutral things, food, beverages, spicy stuff, etc., etc. Don't miss it, mods. Thank you so much for being here for yet another Throwback Thursday on a Wednesday. And thank you, chat, for being here. Thank you so much for the support that was shown today and for just keeping me entertained. I hope you were at least mildly entertained. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. And our poll ended up with 45% of you thinking that Donald Hartung is a guilty witch. Burn him. 29% of you said he's not a witch, but he's guilty. 16% of you said he's a not guilty witch, and only 10% of you said he's not a witch and not guilty. My personal take on this is I don't think the prosecution proved beyond a reasonable doubt he did it, but I think he did it. If I was on the jury, I would have to go, yeah, I'm pretty sure he did it. So that's how I would have to come down on this. I think the closing arguments on the prosecution was the best thing the prosecution's done, although it seems like a lot of it was unsupported by evidence. But I think their closing arguments so far, Sarah Palin's closing argument is really good so far. But on that note, we will see you next week, whichever day this happens to take place on. Don't miss it. Be there. Stay tuned on Twitter. Keep your notifications on. Keep your subscriptions on. And let's see what. Let's go on over and say hi to Broken Baker, who we haven't rated in quite a while. People, ladies, gentlemen, and Alan. We'll let the Allens decide which one I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Take care. And as always, whoever you are and whatever you're doing, just make sure you are all enjoying your legal vices. And our final headphone warning for the week. Bye.